I just had the craziest experience in podcasting that I've ever had in my entire career, and I want to tell you all about it. So I was invited to be on a podcast called Only Founders, which is hosted by a woman named Ann Gillespie. And what was interesting from the very beginning is that she invited me to be on the show and told me, look, I want to talk about your new AI-powered SaaS, the thing that you're founding, the company you're founding, all about PodAgain.ai, the Act 3 agency, everything, but mostly curious about PodAgain.ai. What is your experience as a founder? You know, founders issues, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of podcasts like that. So I agreed, like, yeah, great. Promotional opportunity, can talk about, you know, my product and get the name out there and all that good stuff. And then she sent me the intake form. And in the intake form, one of the questions that she asked was, would you mind getting personal? And I said, sure, don't mind getting personal. And then the next question was kind of like, do you mind getting really deep and personal? And I thought, what the hell? Let's get really deep and personal, sure. And then we got really deep and personal. So during the recording of the podcast this morning, we talked about everything. We talked about marriage. We talked about divorce. We talked about raising kids. We talked about ethical non-monogamy, open marriages. We talked about porn. We talked about everything. I mean, this was not your normal podcast founder podcast. It was crazy. And there were points where it wasn't that I was afraid or ashamed or embarrassed to talk about these things. It was like, okay, well, how do I explain these things? Like, do you got 2 hours? I mean, how long does this go? This is a lot of personal material. And again, I'm not one to shy away from the personal stuff. Ask me anything. I got my heart on my sleeve. That's not the problem. It's like the time, like how much time do you got? Because these are issues, these are situations in my life that required years for me to think through and to work out, right? So what, do we have years to talk about this sort of thing? So I'm answering all these personal questions and we're talking about these really deep issues. And we get to the last 10 or 15 minutes of the podcast, and that's when she asked about being a founder and the product that I'm making and that sort of thing. And then she asked, so why are you making this product? Why are you a founder? And that's when it struck me, like, I could have gone into all this detail about, well, I see the market gap here and there, and our customer research indicates that there is a need for this product in this vertical and that vertical. But that wasn't the answer I went to. The answer I went to is, why did I make this product? Why me? What led up to this being the thing that I wanted to do? What happened in my life that led me to this point, to make this thing, to do this project? And I think that's the question that any good podcaster needs to ask themselves. Why you? What is your perspective? What brought you here, now, to talk about this? That's the humanity that needs to be, not just in your podcast, but in any work you do. You need to have that context. You need to understand that frame of reference of what brought you to this moment here to do this thing now, and why it should be you. What happened in your life that brought you to this moment? And are you willing to share that in the projects that you do? That was my takeaway.